November 12th meeting of the Hudson Common Council to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the absence of Mayor Burchill, I'll be running the meeting tonight, but I will be retaining my rights to vote as the 6th District Alderperson. Clerk's roll call.
President of Council Vanslo.
Here.
District 1 Morset.
Here.
District 2 Yakub.
Here.
District 3 Bernard.
Here.
District 4 Tewinkle.
Here.
District 5 Hoggett.
Here.
Are there any people in the audience who would like to make comments or have suggestions for any items that are not on the agenda? Anyone who would like to speak to the Common Council? Okay. Consent agenda items.
To approve the regular and closed session minutes of October 22nd, 2012. To approve a 3-year extension of the conditional use permit for Grammar Incorporated for storage up to 1,320 gallons of flammable or combustible liquids at 2700 Harvey Street, as identified in their application and amended in their letter of July 15th, 2004. To approve a 3-year extension of the conditional use permit for Briggs Auto Service, Matt Briggs, for the auto repair garage at 1300 Gateway Circle, with the condition that tires and junk vehicles are kept within the fenced area. To approve claims for payment in the amount of $573,059.83. A detailed description is available in the clerk's office on request and is posted on the city's website. To approve the issuance of 7 regular operators licenses for the period October 13th, 2012 through June 30th, 2014. Additional information is available on request in the clerk's office. To place on file the semi-annual report of the Community Development Director and the October 23rd, 2012 minutes of the Community Access Board. That is all.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, roll call.
Tewinkle.
Yes.
Bernard.
Yes.
Morset.
Yes.
Yakub.
Yes.
Hoggett.
Yes.
Vanslo.
Yes. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the subdivision review, 2001 Carmichael Road. 2 certified survey maps west of Carmichael Road. Chris Hansen, Hansen Brothers 12 LLC. Benny?
Good evening. The recommendation of the Plan Commission is to recommend approval of 2 certified survey maps as proposed by the Hansen Brothers 12 LLC with the following conditions: a 33-foot wide easement to be provided on the golf course property abutting the proposed 3 development lots and outlot. The certified survey maps may not be recorded until the development agreement between the City of Hudson and Hansen Brothers 12 LLC is executed and recorded in the letters of credit be provided to assure the construction of proposed public and private sanitary sewer, water, and driveway improvements. I believe Catherine and I discussed that provision. I think she wants to discuss that. Let me finish,
Sure.
And we'll let Catherine have the floor. Final design of utility and private driveway to be approved by the city engineer. A written acknowledgement of proposed changes to the access to the Culver's lot to be provided to the city by the owners of Culver's and Walgreen lots. Again, that's just an acknowledgement, not requiring consent by those properties.
Then with regard to the development agreement, I just wanted the approval to be subject to execution of the development agreement. One provision of the development agreement will be that it can't be recorded, but we have a draft circulating. I haven't gotten feedback on that much yet, so I'd just like the approval contingent on the, any of the terms in the development agreement. So that if we run into something, we can come back to council on it.
Denny, I had one question and one clarification, kind of for the general public purpose, and that's on the first page, under the a frontage or access road to the north. It is addressed in 2 ways. Your bullet point number 2, where it says, but not prior to the end of the existing agreement, the golf course remain for an additional 7 years unless the request is made by Hansen Brothers and is approved by the City of Hudson. So could you just clarify that point?
Well, currently there is a development that was created for the golf course to remain for 10-year period. There's been about 3 years of that time period has passed. So they have approximately 7 years left upon which the agreement is to keep it as a golf course. One provision in that agreement is that the owners of the property could come to the city of Hudson and request to be let out of that agreement. And that would be subject to the city's approval. Doesn't mean the city would have to grant it. Just that. So what we're saying is, at the end of the 7-year period, they come to us, and ask for consideration of rezoning, redevelopment of the property. At that time, we'd look at this alternative route. The other option to be is before that 7-year period of time, the Hanson brothers came to the city of Hudson, requested to be let out of the agreement, then that would be considered at that time. But it's not an obligation of the city to let them out. It's just the fact that they could ask for that.
Thank you.
Denny, the 3 lots are basically replacing the parking lots right now.
The 3 lots that are proposed is the current location of the clubhouse, the parking lot to the south, and the 3rd lot is the present location of the 18th green. The outlot that's proposed essentially is the location of the access, the south access to the golf clubs, which is between the golf course and Culver's.
Okay. So, and I see on the 3rd plat here that there's a proposed parking lot to be put in somewhere?
Well, the question that came up at the Plan Commission was, what would happen if the clubhouse is sold and is no longer used as a clubhouse for the golf course? And that's a different use. The parking is utilized by that specific use. What would happen? Where would the golf club parking lot be moved to? So what we're trying to identify in the development agreement is a general location, an illustration showing where the potential location of that parking lot may be. Now again, the parking lot would be subject to zoning regulations of the city of Hudson. It'd be subject to the approval of the city of Hudson. It'd be subject to potential DNR permits for stormwater management. So they'd have to come back and ask the city of Hudson for these. It doesn't mean the city's obligated to approve that, because that's a process of the zoning. But what we were trying to identify in the development agreement, working with the Hansons, is the questions that came up at the Plan Commission. How can we potentially address these? And again, we're trying to identify a potential location, but there's no obligation for the city to approve that.
Is there any obligation for the Hanson brothers to put that parking in if they sell the lots?
They would have to, probably, because zoning would require them to provide off-street parking for the golf course. So they would have to meet the zoning obligations.
So you say probably.
Well, they may never subdivide that property. They may never sell the clubhouse. At this point, it's speculation.
But if they do sell all 3 lots, do I hear you say that they're not obligated to put this parking lot in?
No,
even though they have to keep the golf course open?
No, they'd be obligated to provide off-street parking as required for a golf course. So they would be obligated if that comes to that consideration.
And how do we enforce that obligation?
Well, before they would be able, first of all, they would have to come in with development plans for other properties. At that point, that's what would kick in these discussions.
Okay. So if they come in with development plans for these lots, then those development plans will be approved contingent upon the parking going in to allow the golf course to remain for 7 years.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
I guess I'll move to approve this motion under staff recommendation as it follows in your packet.
Along with the comments I made about the development agreement.
And with Catherine's commentary.
I'll second.
Can we, just for the general public, can we get some discussion going about what their
I was thinking
their
that,
plan is? There's been a lot of questions, and I know this is just a first step and maybe they don't have, all their ducks in a row, but can we talk a little bit about the future or?
Well, Jeff Redmond is the legal counsel for the Hanson Brothers is here, perhaps but there's
Yeah, that'd
been
be
no
great.
specific plans presented to the Plan Commission in regards to these 3 lots at this time.
Okay. I'd just like some additional information if it's available.
Sure. Jeff Redmond, local lawyer representing the Hansons. I helped them buy the golf course and have helped them through this process. They currently have the property listed with Greystone Commercial and really don't have any specific interest in what those lots would be. They've been zoned commercial. Actually, it's been zoned commercial all the way to the northerly property boundary, so the 18th green, we can subdivide that lot without getting it rezoned. It's already zoned commercial. So there isn't any specific plans. That's what the market wants, I guess. As to the golf course, one clarification, when the Hanson brothers bought the golf course, there was an obligation not to operate a golf course, but to leave it open for a golf course. And so to answer the question about does the parking have to be built? Well, not if they don't operate a golf course. They would make that choice. Actually, for the first time in a very, very long time, they made money this year. So, their hope and expectation is to continue to operate the golf course. It doesn't make any sense to let it sit there.
So your interpretation of the agreement with the old Hudson Golf Club is that it was not an agreement to keep it a golf course, it was just keep it open for a golf course?
The specific language speaks to not to keep it open as a golf course, but not to do anything that would interfere with its use as a golf course. And because the fact of the matter is when the Hansons bought it, it hadn't made money for years, decades, and there was no assurance that they could turn it around and continue to make money. So the obligation wasn't to keep it open, but to keep it available as a golf course.
Boy, I got to tell you, I was part of those talks, and that wasn't my understanding at the time, Jeff. I was part of the Hudson Golf Club board, and I guess I shouldn't speak to that, but it certainly wasn't the understanding that the board had. But that's neither here nor there at this point in time.
Okay, I have a question from a non-golfer. How would we take the 18th green and, we're subdividing that lot? Are we going to have the 17-hole golf course?
No. The 18th green gets moved down the fairway it'll shorten it from a par 5 to a par 4. If you've ever golfed it, I know I can't get it up the hill. It'll make it a little easier. It'll still be a regulation golf course. It'll be 1 stroke less than it is now.
Same with the 10th hole?
The 10th tee box
The
gets
tee-
moved,
Well, but the 10th hole in general will be
reconfigured.
shortened too by 1 stroke, right?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I don't think that's the
It'll
plan.
just be a
Just
shorter
move the
hole.
tee
A
box.
shorter,
Just a
okay.
shorter hole.
Yeah.
They'll just make it a shorter hole, that's all.
And then the driving range will be,
The
On.
parking lot is where the driving range, but that's also a big water retention area. So wherever that ends up, it kind of depends on what the DNR will let us do, and that concept is the one that you see in your paperwork.
So what I'm hearing is in order to do anything with any one of these lots, they'd have to come back to us. Correct, Danny? So this is just a,
This is a subdivision.
Subdivision.
Allows them to create 3 lots along their frontage.
So Denny, if they just leave this land open, it sounds to me like they'll never, the golf course is going to go away. That's what the plan is. They're not going to build a parking lot. It's going to remain open to be a golf course, but the exact interpretation of being open to be a golf course, I guess I don't understand. And so what does that mean to the city? Are they just going to let it overgrow, but it's determined to be open to be a golf course? What does that mean to us? I guess I'm concerned about that.
What the contract agreement between those 2 parties were.
Right, the city's not in a
Agreement.
position to enforce that agreement. What they decided was that was the only entity they were willing to designate to release them from that agreement. But the agreement itself is between your clients, Hanson Brothers, and an entity that's now been dissolved. That's why the city, and I actually haven't seen the agreement, but I think the city was designated just as an entity to release them from that 10-year.
But maintenance of the land, because of their ownership, would be the sole responsibility of the Hanson Brothers. They would have to maintain that to some degree if they just decided
Absolutely.
to keep it open.
And I would, I guess, disagree with you. I've been pretty close to the Hansons for a long time. It is their hope and expectation to keep it open as a golf course. They may have a future development plan that would have to come here and involve a change in the comprehensive plan, rezoning, subdivision, all of those things. We'd have to go through all of those processes to do anything other than a golf course for that 140-some acres. But right now, the full expectation is of the Hansons is to continue to operate a golf course.
With no clubhouse.
The clubhouse would be moved to the cart, where they built a separate building for the carts. They would put in a check-in and move the bar down there.
My biggest concern would be maintenance of the property. I mean, that's really what I'm concerned about from the city standpoint, and also the property owners that abut the golf course so that somebody is maintaining it. And as long as we have the right to go after the Hanson Brothers to maintain their property, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
And I think we have that right. Is that right, Denny?
Just like in your property in the city of Hudson, I mean, you have to have a consideration of nuisance and pursue them that way.
Weeds.
Because we do have a lot of residents who abut the golf course, so I would be concerned if we don't have, some rights to maintain that property or have it maintained by the owners.
But that would be in our statutes.
Code.
This
In the
code
city
now.
code. There's a
Okay.
weed ordinance and
Okay.
so forth.
Okay.
Happy to answer any other questions the common council might have.
Thank you. So there was a motion and a second to approve this based on the contingencies that were set up by Denny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion passes 5-1.
4-1.
4-1.
Oh, it is 5, never mind.
5-1? Yeah, 5-1. I
It's
thought
an empty chair, so.
yeah, I think it was 5-1,
Yes,
wasn't
it
it?
is.
I think everybody voted for it, right? All right, next agenda item is application for rezoning 16.16 acres at 2221 Crestview Drive, former Travel Information Center, from PUB Public or Quasi-Public to B2 General Business District, and to amend the 2009 City of Hudson Comprehensive Plan, 2030 Master Plan, MAP Land, use of designation from public to general commercial, Hudson Center LLC, David Robinson, ordinance 13-12.
The ordinance, Plan Commission is still reviewing the traffic analysis. A draft's been prepared. We've asked for some modifications of that traffic impact study. One, to incorporate the Crestview Drive, Carmichael Road intersection, and also to take a little more look at the traffic flow north of Crestview Drive along Gateway Boulevard, which would be the street between Taco Bell and Quick Trip. So with no recommendation of the Plan Commission, I'm recommending you have first reading of the ordinance. We bring it back at the first meeting in December. Hopefully by then, the Plan Commission, this traffic impact study will be done, and the Plan Commission will have their formal recommendation in front of you.
Danny, could you speak a little bit to, just to the idea that, various public entities have been given the opportunity to pursue it, and just so the general public is aware of that?
Well, the city of Hudson's been given a couple of opportunities. The current property owner also has offered to the city. University of River Falls took a close look at the use of the property. Again, I felt very strongly not too long ago that this property should not have been sold by the DOT. They should have held on to it for 2 more years while we finished some traffic review and so forth on exit 2 Carmichael interchange. However, the sale did move ahead. I think that in general, the public entities have been given an opportunity to either work with the DOT or work with the property owners. So from that perspective, at least in discussions at Common Council not too long ago, there was not interest in the city of Hudson of purchase of the property or use of the property.
And Denny, why are you asking for first reading if we don't have a comprehensive traffic study?
It basically doesn't obligate the Common Council to action one way or the other. It just takes one step in the process. And otherwise, I mean, you could wait, have first reading at the next meeting, suspend the rules if you wanted to, or you have first reading the next one. And so, to me, it's just taking one step in the procedure.
The traffic study was well done. It was just at Plan Commission, we had a few concerns as far as the idea was brought to have Crestview Drive be, or not Crestview, Gateway Boulevard be one way going in to into Taco Bell and Quick Trip, and it would be like a one-way street to go all the way through, which I personally am a fan of. But we wanted to get more information as far as that with the traffic study from the engineers and how that whole how it's going to affect Carmichael. We just didn't have that.
Well, exactly.
But it's just like a little niche of.
Kind of exactly my point. We really don't have any traffic information except for just a brief little summary.
Well, you didn't. Well, I guess Plan Commission.
Just repeat, first reading does not obligate the Common Council to approval or denial. You just read it into the record that I mean, by state statute, typically it requires a first reading and followed by a second reading, but it's your prerogative.
So we're just moving the process along.
Absolutely.
Just, yeah, if you wanted to adopt it at one meeting, you'd have to suspend the rules and then adopt it. But, I mean, you can do either take no action, first reading. I mean, you can do either one.
Well, before I would approve it, I'd like to see more of the traffic study. I'd like to see a little more information, so I'm not willing to really do a first reading, I guess.
Well, again, you're not approving.
I understand that, but it just, to me, I understand the process.
I'll move for a first reading.
I'll second.
Wait, we already have a motion.
We have a motion on the floor?
No.
I don't think so.
Sorry, wrong one.
All right. I'll keep it as is.
I will second still.
So we have a motion and a second for first reading.
And I'm only doing this because I know yes, you had a brief summary, but I'm Plan Commission. We had a thick packet. I've seen, what they're doing, and the Robsons are working very hard to make sure that intersection and that area is going to be a well-flowed intersection. Actually, I think this whole thing is a blessing in disguise because right now that intersection's a mess. And if we can improve that intersection through this process, I'm all for it.
Well, and that's my point. I mean, we all in these chairs have a very hard and fast look at this little thing right now. Now, yeah, I understand, Danny, we're not obligated tonight, but that whole corner up there has been a pain for the last at least 8 years I've been sitting in this chair. And we got to do it right. If we can slow it down a little bit, let's take a good look at it. Let us look at the traffic plan and then move forward and make the right decisions. We've got to do it right because of the very issue you're talking about.
Well, that's why I'm confident that it'll get done right. That's why I made the first reading motion.
I have a question, just on the proposed tax revenue that we might gain from it. Talks about potential of $225,000 in property taxes per year, and it says approximately 25 of that would be city. Isn't it 25%?
25%. Yeah.
So we're looking at more like 56,000 per year, right?
Sure.
Okay. And I know it's just a projection, but I just wanted to make sure I had the right.
Yeah, that's based on taking property values, improvement values in developments that's very near or in close proximity to that property.
I actually agree with Randy, which doesn't happen real often. Just in that, I would like to see a little bit more in the way of traffic information. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it in any way, but I don't feel like have enough information to,
Well,
To
Camille,
do a
let me
first reading?
clarify that point. The Plan Commission recommendation, when it comes to you, will include that information.
okay, but let me ask this, Denny, not to be a contrarian, but is there anything keeping this from moving forward if we don't do a first reading tonight?
No.
Okay. And so I guess
I look at it from the point that, yeah, we have nothing to lose by doing it, but we also have nothing to gain. We want to see the complete package. So,
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the project.
I'm not opposed to it, but until we have a complete set of documents, I don't think we have anything to move forward with.
So Danny, you had mentioned that you would have preferred that the state had waited a couple of years and given us a chance to do the traffic study. Is all of that going to be incorporated? No.
No, because those studies will be probably ongoing through the summer.
Okay, and so, it just raises a bigger question. Are we jumping the gun to make this decision before that study is complete? I mean, just because the land has been purchased doesn't mean we have to move
No,
up
but
our timetable.
they've applied for rezoning. We
Right.
have to take it through a process.
Okay,
The traffic study that's coming this summer is simply the Carmichael corridor, correct? Am I wrong?
No, it'd be late summer for
Yeah, but that's the one that's
DOT
coming, is the
and the
Carmichael
city's
corridor?
studies will be done,
Yeah, for Carmichael corridor, not,
correct?
yeah.
I'd like to see it move forward. I don't see any reason for hesitation. There's a lot of property here. I don't think it's rocket science to end up with a traffic flow that works to solve our 8-year problem. So I'm comfortable with the first reading. That's why I second it.
Are we, if we do not approve this, Denny, are we impeding anything? Are
All
we-
you need to do is postpone it. You'd have first reading in December when the Plan Commission recommendation comes forward.
or we could suspend the rules at that time and just
Absolutely.
deal
Yeah.
with it.
Okay, so it can still move forward at the same pace if we suspend the rules at the next meeting?
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any more questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning.
No,
First
the
reading.
First reading, I'm sorry, to approve first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion fails 4-2.
Move to postpone to the next, the December 3rd meeting,
Or when the Plan Commission
as
recommendation
soon as we get
comes
the
forward.
recommendation from the Plan Commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion to postpone till the planning commission has a recommendation. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item is the proposed 2013 budget for enterprise funds.
This item, just for information tonight, Neil will have an ordinance prepared when we have our budget hearing next week to also approve these budgets. That's information only this evening.
So no need for action, really.
Nope, unless there's questions that you need to ask of Neil.
Anybody got questions for
Yeah, I
Neil?
got questions on, are we talking about the budget, right?
We're talking about the enterprise fund budgets, the
Yeah,
parking,
enterprise fund.
EMS,
Yeah,
storm sewer.
I lost my budget. I'm sorry. Thank you. It's the EMS revenue. And the EMS budget is quite a bit different from years past. It's got a lot of variation, so I was kind of wondering at the 2002 revenue request, total revenues, we got 2.253, which is quite a bit larger than the 2012 approved, which is at 1.832. I just was curious, what's the...
There was a recommendation from the EMS Commission to increase certain rates to be competitive with the market. The other recommendation that from the EMS Commission that is incorporated in there is to submit for insurance calls for service where no services are rendered or, where there's no transport available. Perhaps, I don't know, Lori, if you want to expand on that at all, but it does reflect a revenue increase. They recognized that they had additional cost of service, and they were looking for ways to balance their budget, and they were balancing it through the revenue increase.
That's right.
And
So it's mainly changes to the charges.
what
for
is the,
users.
submitting to insurance, is that just a known guaranteed amount of money that comes in, or that's?
No, I mean, we just wanted to get our billing rates in line with other services in the area.
Okay,
And Neil's right, in the past, we've not charged individuals who call for service and are not transported. And what we found over the last several years is more and more people are using our service as sort of a
Urgent care.
urgent care, that comes to your door. And unfortunately, it's a very expensive way for people to get their blood pressure checked and basic vitals checked. So we've decided that we will be charging. It's a $200 charge. It's
So
a
the
lot
only
of,
charge that would come is if you were transported.
in the past.
Right now, yes.
And we found, is Kim still here? She's not. People have been using the service for things like toothaches, simple things that you would normally not need
Is there
an ambulance
precedence
for.
that? The only reason I ask is, on the fire board, we were looking at charging for stuff too, and there's lots of things going on across the country now that are saying that they're changing it so you cannot do that, so.
No, there is precedence for it.
Okay.
Yeah, the recommendation was made at the EMS Commission meeting. Kim had a survey of the area EMS services in terms of what they're currently charging for each of those, and just to be sure that ours are in line with those.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion or questions? I guess we don't need any motions or proposals, it was just a review.
That's FYI.
Do we need a motion on that? We don't need a motion. Okay, the next item is proposal from Ehlers and Associates for a 5-year financial plan.
Back in 2008, the council had approved an agreement with Ehlers to create a 5-year financial plan. No action was taken on that plan, even though the agreement was signed and the funds were encumbered. Last year in 2011, just because the encumbrance and the purchase order had been out there for a number of years, that was canceled and those funds were released to surplus. Two finance committee meetings ago, Mayor Burchell requested that we reconsider having Ehlers update their proposal. The proposal is for the same amount of money, and you can see the general plan in terms of the schedule of meetings and key dates that are in their proposal. Those key dates are pretty much designed so that we can, the end of the planning process would coincide with when we would typically approve a capital budget, and then to look for any potential financing needs going out to the market for the issuance of debt. But the hope is that this would be kind of a midterm look at how do we meet our ongoing operational and capital needs for the city.
Sounds smart.
Yeah, at finance, I mentioned to Devin, we really need to get a handle on our health insurance going forward. And now that the election's done, it looks like Obamacare is coming. Some estimates are 30 to 40% increases in health care. I really hope that's wrong. But if that's the kind of increase that we have in our health insurance, we better start planning now.
Yeah, we had a discussion at the Finance Committee to whatever excess personnel funds we would have at the end of this year, because we haven't filled some positions, and any other maybe contingency funds that were left, we're going to place in a health insurance reserve, partially for that, just to offset any future increases.
Yeah, but that's...
And that's part of it. And then we also, this year, we were actually going to go out, and we will definitely have to start looking at other alternatives to see what's out there. And as I mentioned in finance, the difficulty we have is that it's difficult to split a group into two smaller groups to get decent rates. So we'll have to look at that as well, because some of our employees are still represented by unions. But we'll have to look at all that.
There's also exemptions, though, for under 50 employees and things like that.
We have approximately 75 employees.
Fire has less than 50, for example, or I mean, police.
Correct.
So there are some variations.
But the difficulty then is with the number of employees, the more employees you have, usually the lower, in theory, the lower the rates are. But those are all things we'll have to look out for. It'll be for 2014.
And I mean, we don't split our employees into different,
We don't, but what I'm saying is that you can make whatever decisions you want about everybody but the police employees. We're still required to bargain with the police employees, so that potentially could involve a split of insurance plans for this for one group and this for another. You know, we'll have to look and see how that would impact our rates, is what I'm saying. But I know that Deb Zohovic, who is our benefits consultant, has been on top of all this, and I'm sure now that, you know, as Laurie said, the election is over, you know, they'll be going through the process. That's what we pay them for, is to guide us through this process, so.
So I'll move to approve the agreement with Ayers and appropriate the funds from,
What we're going to do is, at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, when you made the decision not to exempt the Prairie View Apartments from the payment in lieu of taxes, I will increase the revenue, which is approximately $10,000, and then we'll increase the expenses by the same amount to cover this, and that way there won't be any impact on the next year's budget as far as the mill rate.
it's coming out of what budget?
2013 general operating budget, yep.
So that's where I move to approve the money coming from.
second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider proceeding with easement documents for the Stone Pine Trail. Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss out? I missed one, okay, yep. Application of the Hudson Hot Air Fair Incorporated for special event permit for February 1 to 3, 2013.
Move to approve.
Second.
Would you like to speak?
Just wanted to thank you, and since the finance meeting, I have all the answers to the questions typed up to hand out to you, so. There were just some questions that came from the Public Works Department concerning logistics for Hot Air Affair. And so our committee had taken a look at that, and I've spoken with Tom Zuley, and everything is either already in the process, or we have in the past done parking lot rentals and barricade rentals and all of those things in the past. So all of the issues are being either addressed or have already been addressed.
What's the theme for this year?
It is going to be Majestic Flyway. And that can probably be interpreted many, many ways.
Same thing.
What we would like to focus for the first time is the winter recreation opportunities of bird watching. We have swans and we have eagles and we have people who come to the St. Croix Valley for winter bird watching. So we're in the process of talking with some of the National Park Service folks, the DNR folks, to get solid information on wildlife biology and information on doing serious bird watching here in the Hudson area and the St. Croix Valley. And lots of crowns and majestic things and other things too, I'm sure.
So Randy, is your motion to approve with the recommendations from the Public Works Committee being met?
Yes.
And the reduction in the insurance?
And the reduction of insurance.
And you're okay with that, Laura?
No, I seconded it, so yeah.
You seconded it, Mary? You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second to approve with the recommendations by the Public Works and the reduction in insurance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to consider proceeding with the easement documents from the Stone Pine Trail and recommend city attorney review of the city's liability for maintaining private property. Tom's going to talk to this.
Just a little history on this. The reason that we looked into this was that, you know, it's kind of an ongoing process that we've been doing for several years, is to look at our mowing operations, and the weed control and snow plowing operations. So when we looked at this area, we found out a couple things that actually the city does not own this trail. It's owned by the Stone Pine Association, and we have been maintaining this area, which kind of goes against our policies that we're doing work on private property. So the other thing that we talked about was with Jim Schreiber, and there is a lift station below the Wisconsin Street down in that area that they have to have access to. The area right off Wisconsin Street is very steep, and there's a curve there, so generally you have an access from the Pine Ridge Association, or the Pine Ridge parking lot. So the wastewater treatment plant director, Jim Schreiber, said that they currently have a plow on their truck now, and they can maintain from that access point to their lift station only as they need to. They'll keep it clear. So I guess the other issue is who's going to plow the rest of the area, and also to have an easement drafted, because part of that trail is actually on city property, the one on the east end. So that's the issue that we're bringing forward tonight.
So the issue is we have part of a trail on city property and part of a trail on...
Well, the issue is, yes, exactly. It's a private trail that we have maintained over the years. We've done some mowing, and along the sides of it, we generally keep it clear in the winter. But seeing that it is a private trail, that it's probably not our responsibility, and there's probably liability involved with us doing work on a private trail.
How much of it is the city?
Just on the east end off of Grandview Drive, there's none of the trail is cities.
No, but city property. How much of the trail lies on city property? Excuse me.
It's on that map there. If you notice on the east end off of Grandview Drive, it's the area that's highlighted in blue if you have a color copy.
Yeah.
So that's where we would actually need to get an easement drafted. So
it needs to just about where the driveway comes out from behind Pine Ridge. That's about where the city property ends.
So it looks like we're already maintaining about 2/3 of that because of the access and the east end of the trail.
we would like to, in the wintertime, we don't have to have access to our property. I mean, that's just a trail that's on our property, so they should actually, Stone Pine should have an easement with us, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
because
their trail is on our property, so.
So it's because it's a
they own,
continuance
if you look, my understanding is they own this little outlot, their association, right on the edge,
Grandview.
right on Grandview. And they just have, I don't know if there was an understanding when the subdivision was platted
I'm not
that
sure.
they could have a trail to connect up with the street and, their piece of property, or how that came about. But that's an issue. Does the trail exists? Is it an improved trail, a paved trail? or-
Asphalt trail that
Okay.
It's a nice
a
trail.
lot of people walk on.
Okay, so just to clean that up, the city would, for them to have the right to do that, they'd need an easement to both have the trail there, and you could include maintenance costs. It's still a private trail though, right?
Yes, it is. And that was our concerns. A lot of times, last winter we get called and people say, well, your trail is slippery, can you go down and salt it? Well, here we go. This is actually a private trail, so I don't
Yeah.
legally think that we should be down there just for the liability.
No, I agree, because you're maintaining private property, and if someone gets hurt, the association is, well, the city maintains it. Well, the city really shouldn't be maintaining it because it's private property. Now, the association may want, and this is their issue, if the public, my understanding is that it is private property, it's not a public trail. And the association may have some issues with respect to liability if they want to keep it open or not to public use. I mean,
So-
that's their
I
issue.
don't mean to laugh, but
So it says here that we're waiting for Ron Troyer. He's gonna wait to see what we do here before they did make a decision, is that right?
He actually isn't the president anymore. He just recently got off the board, so they're kind of waiting for whatever decision the city comes up with. And
So bottom line, we're going to maintain access from the Pine Ridge parking lot
to the lift station, that would be the
As needed, yeah.
as needed.
that would be the wastewater treatment plant.
So
gonna
we
get an-
would get an easement from Stone Pine. The access would be on their property, correct?
So we'd have to get an easement from them for access to the lift
your
station
Lift station, right.
and they have to get an easement from us to have their trail on.
on our property.
Jeez.
We actually need an easement from them to go across that outlot to have access to that city parcel in blue, right, Tom? Is there anything on that property?
Just the path in the woods.
Okay.
And where all the things intersected is during the winter months, if there's a freeze and a thaw and a freeze and a thaw, because all the hills meet at one spot, it's extremely dangerous. It's our backyard, that's why I know this, but it's extremely dangerous back there.
And
We've
you-
had a lot of people falling.
An easement is just
Trail?
contract, paper contract written up, right? So we're,
An
okay.
easement's a document
Yeah,
that
I know,
gets
I mean,
recorded
I-
against the property. It gives us
Yeah.
property rights in there.
No, I know what it is. I'm asking now, our process is just through a paper document written up. The legal document
Clarify the
saying, yeah,
rights, yeah.
I,
So the request time is to get an easement from Stone Pine for the part of the path
For the wastewater.
for the wastewater,
Wastewater
for
plant.
access to the wastewater,
And
And
then for
then-
them to get one for us.
for their path
Their-
on city property.
But up until now, it's been cleared so people walk on this in the winter because we actually maintain the trail. Is that
We
right?
have, yes.
but then Stone Pine will just have to maintain it, like any other.
Well,
They
they
said
can
they
choose.
may not. They
what-
said
Well,
if
they
they-
can choose
want
not
to,
to,
But they wouldn't maintain all of it because we own we own this chunk of it here.
Right, so we'd have to maintain
Um,
that chunk.
No, because it's
But
not
we're
our,
not-
it's
Yeah,
not our
no,
trail.
Not our
the
trail.
easement would be, it's their trail, they maintain it.
We'd give them an easement on our property.
Across our
This-
property. That's-
This
Blue.
blue parcel down in.
But they did say, Mr. Troyer did say that if they don't have funds, they may not keep the trail open in the winter.
And
Good.
That's very
that's up to
possible.
them.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
it's up
But
to
it's
them.
their trail, that's their
Right.
option.
Yeah,
Or we could make it a linear park or linear trail as part of our parks.
No,
no, it's private
It's a private
property.
property.
We
property.
could acquire it.
Well,
Meaning,
No, it's
No.
right through their Stone Pine.
It's no different than the trails of Red Cedar Canyon. It's the same concept.
Okay, so the request is for easements on each part of
It's
the
a
site.
proper easements taken care of and notify the association that the city will not maintain
Yeah.
their trail anymore.
So can this be done in one document, or do we need three?
Well, no, yeah, I
Is
I
that-
have to look at it, because they gotta be recorded against the property, and it's two separate,
Three, actually.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll definitely want one across that outlot,
yeah, you can't.
whether we
have
use it or not.
Right, you need access to your property.
So we need a motion?
Motion for the easements?
I will so move per Catherine's directions for the easements to be created.
I will second that.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this issue? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I think you also wanna have a motion, just so it's documented and in the minutes that the city's not gonna maintain
Oh.
those trails on
Okay.
private property.
So
For
moved.
the private trails.
Is there a
So-
motion? Okay, motion, not, the city will not maintain the private pathway.
I'll second that one.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just for clarification, this might have to come up in another agenda. Why can't we buy the trail from Stone Pine Association and make it part of our park system? That's a question. We could do that, right?
If they
Well,
wanted to
if-
sell
yeah,
it.
you could, I mean, that is an item for a future agenda,
Okay.
but
Just a question.
It would require them wanting to.
sure, and, I mean, the
And
city would
settling on
have to
a
look
price
at
and-
it, and, yeah.
And then we'd have access to our own property and adjacent to the other property, and then it would still maintain a trail that people use, kind of thing. So, okay.
All right, so the motion on the table is that the city will not maintain the private pathway going through Stone Trail. And there was a second?
No.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, consider changes to municipal code 212-9A, ordinance number 1412. It's the snow and ice removal procedure.
This is kind of a little bit on the same topic. The municipal code 212-9, in the third sentence, talks about owner or occupant of any lot or parcel shall within 24 hours after such continuous period of snowfall remove all snow and ice which may have fallen or accumulated upon the sidewalk. And then the current code says in front of, which doesn't, we want to change that to adjacent to, which would be side lots, in front of, side lots, and in rear lots. We don't have any jurisdiction or any ordinance against. It's just talks about front lots. So we'd like to see if we could change that to adjacent to.
Okay, I got a few questions on this, just a few. So question one would be, for example, the walking path / sidewalk, I don't know what you call it, on Vine Street that goes behind Jacobson's Woods, for example,
That's
towards the high
exactly.
school.
Yep.
Is that private, city? Who maintains that then?
That's one of our spots that we've slowly been working on this for several years. We've worked through with Beaneman Farms properties. We've dealt with Red Cedar Canyon, Heritage Greens, the sidewalks up on by the gravel pit area. We still have a few more areas to look at. Vine Street is one of them. Cooley Road is another one, and County Road A is the third one that we'd really like to address.
So the Vine Street sidewalk would have to be maintained by those residents there?
Currently, we go from the school property all the way past several churches, the YMCA, and the last business on the east end.
But with the change in this would become the homeowner's responsibility or the YMCA's responsibility or what have you that's adjacent, okay. And then the same with Cooley Road. So, for example, the nuns would have to handle the sidewalk on Cooley Road?
Someone's going to have to. But currently, we go from the Holiday gas station, and we go by Casanova's property.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go by, I think, Tim Crusoe and Betty Crusoe have a home on Cooley Road. We go by their property. The Carmelite home,
Mm-hmm.
that would be the rear property.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go a little bit beyond that, and currently there's another property that's for sale. I think it was a Cornwall property.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing that. And then farther up is all those apartments that we've been doing.
So then what about downtown? What about all the sidewalks in front of like the restaurants and?
They shovel their own. We do have snow removal by the parking lot so people can get in and, parking. We clean the gutter line and up to the parking meters what we clear off. We do not shovel any snow off the sidewalks.
But we remove the snow if there's a lot of snow.
Yes.
So are we no longer going to remove the snow then? If it's on sidewalks like that, we're in that situation, or?
That's up to you, the city council, but currently we do try to remove snow from the parking lot, from the gutter line for safety and so people have access to the parking meters.
I mean, I think the big difference there is that there is nowhere for people downtown to put the snow.
And that's totally customary across every city. Business owners shovel it into the street, the city takes care of it. That's just the way it works.
You wouldn't say that, though, because any resident could do that.
No, we can't do that.
It says you can't do that right here.
There are
But the businesses-
cities.
you said the businesses.
Business districts.
Okay.
I have seen it down in Eau Claire on Water Street. I've seen a lot of snow piled up in, on their gutter lines in Stillwater, downtown Stillwater. I don't think they remove a lot of their snow at it, on every snowfall like we do.
So
Go ahead.
you're gonna make the Carmelite nuns shovel their sidewalk on the Cooley Road.
We're just trying to be consistent with all the other people that we've tried. We're just trying to work with being consistent. We've worked, we've we've worked with, other developments and other areas, and we're just trying to be consistent.
So is Cooley and the Cooley Road sidewalk and the Vine Street sidewalk, I call them sidewalks, but are they sidewalks or are they paths? Are they part of a path system that we have in town? Were they created for a path system or were they created as a sidewalk? Because I've heard that they were created as a path system in town, and I just want clarification.
I'm not sure on what difference that would make.
Well, if we created a path system, like a walking path system, to me, it does make a difference because it's somewhat similar to the walking path of a park in a way for creating a walking path system. I mean, I know it's not a park because it's on Cooley Road and Vine Street, but like the concept in my mind is similar.
Yeah.
The path along Grandview, Stone Pine takes care of.
Yeah, well, Hanley, Residue Canyon takes care of.
Yep.
But
That's the thing. We just want to try to be consistent. I know it's pretty awkward for, it's going to be awkward for the Carmelites and it's going to be awkward for those people on Stag Circle.
But
That's probably why we've been sidestepping this issue for quite some time.
But I almost get nervous about it because if I'm a person who lives in that I live off Hanley, but I mean, if I had to go back there and shovel that sidewalk when cars are going 40 miles per hour and it's icy and snowy and you don't know who's going to slip, it's not very safe. But knowing that we have a machine that we pay for as an association to go through makes it a totally different situation. But when you have someone like Jacobson's Woods and you're going to have someone go back there with their shovel and shovel their little lot area, I hesitate on those main thoroughfares and stuff like that. It makes me a bit nervous.
I think that's why it's been sidestepped for quite a few years. I'm just bringing this forward so we're aware of it and to be consistent what we have been doing the last several years.
Did you answer the question whether it was a sidewalk or a path? Because I remember, and Denny, correct me if I'm wrong, at one point it was a comprehensive plan that we were going to build a sidewalk all the way up Cooley in front of the Taco John's, the RJ's, all the way up to Target. Now, I don't know if that was considered a pathway, a walkway, or the trail system.
City received a grant from the Department of Transportation to build a sidewalk from downtown on the west or north or west side of Cooley Road all the way up to Hagan Street or 11th Street. And the purpose of the grant was connect the downtown area to the hill area. That was the purpose, where you want to call it a sidewalk or a pathway. That's terminology. It's a sidewalk. It's the width of a sidewalk.
It is the width of a sidewalk. That was
Correct.
one.
Our pathways typically are 8 feet wide. Sidewalks are 4 or 5 feet wide.
Were there any conditions put on that grant? We maintain it, et cetera,
That I
nothing?
recall.
But yet it
This
was
would be
there.
policy of the city, where the city wants to maintain it, or whether we want it maintained typical to a sidewalk in front of somebody's property. The
But-
city council would have to make that decision in a policy consideration.
But yet, the overall reason the grant was issued was to connect the downtown and the uptown.
That's correct, yeah.
And that's why we put the sidewalk there. So in my mind, I think we should maintain it, as we always have for many, many years.
I agree.
But then what is your response going to be if Stone Pine, for example, comes back and says, well, I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Well, the
That's private.
path along
So is-
Grandview.
So is Vine, that's all.
That's not.
They didn't
That's-
get a grant to build it.
Well, I'm just talking about
How
Vine
is a
Street.
sidewalk on Vine Street
That's
private
not,
versus a walking path in Stone Pine?
aren't they all on private property?
That's Stone Pine on the west side of Grandview. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Those properties did not receive a grant.
Oh, I'm not talking about
Purposely
Coolidge.
connect Cooley, the downtown and the uptown.
And Stone Pine is association maintained just like,
But then what about Vine Street from
well,
the
I
high
think,
school?
well, that's why I think the same concept is for Vine Street. I don't know. I just have a problem with the main thoroughfares I think that they should be our responsibility. I don't really think that if I was a neighbor, if I was a resident in Jacobson's Woods in that cul-de-sac, and if I had to go around to go shovel 30 square feet or whatever, 30 feet or whatever it is of sidewalk, and you know, what if someone doesn't shovel it, so we're gonna give them a fine, okay, whatever the fine is. Then you have to look at the other areas of the city, like up by Heritage Greens, where it's owned by commercial. Who are we fining? The banks then, if they don't shovel all those sidewalks?
Okay, so let's look at 17th Street. Let's take another step further. 17th Street is in a lot of people's backyards. Is that now the definition we're going to use? That if it's in your backyard, you don't have to shovel it. If it's in your side yard, you don't have to shovel it. Only if you can see it from the front of your house is it your responsibility. It's something we need to, I agree with Tom.
Is there side
Between
yards?
Laurel and,
They're
no, they're
backyards.
backyards for a lot of people.
And they go around in
Right.
Terpicios, for example.
Yeah,
Can
The
you
ones on
provide
Hud
us,
Circle, the ones on
yeah.
um,
There's,
Dean Knutson's.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
can you provide us with
I
a
would
list
like
of all the sidewalks that you currently maintain? I mean, can we have kind of, it seems to me we could designate areas that the city will just continue to maintain. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I mean, we could, obviously Cooley Road seems, as you know, it's a grant situation. There are other pathways or thoroughfares where it's just easier for the city to maintain it. I mean, without, you know, breaking the bank or anything, it seems like we'd be able to come up with some designation that certain sidewalks just are maintained by the city.
The three that were in question that we've slowly been working toward were Cooley Road from 2nd Street to 11th Street, Vine Street from the high school to past the YMCA, and County Road A from St. Croix Street to Boulder Court, I'm sorry.
And what about the park property that goes down Vine Street?
Coons Hill.
Yeah,
That's on park property, we do maintain that, yes.
Okay.
But that's on park property.
The question still lies for me is, Vine Street, for example, going to the high school, if the people don't want to shovel that sidewalk, yes, they're gonna get a fine. Maybe. Let's be honest,
Well, the
Maybe.
city will
It-
shovel it and charge them,
maybe.
is what the
Because
ordinance
I can guarantee you,
says.
there's sidewalks up by us that are never shoveled, that people should be getting fines for, and they don't, and they sit there. So we have high school kids or whomever going to school or whatever, and unshoveled sidewalks or partially shoveled sidewalks. I just think, I don't know, I just think things were fine the way they were. I don't see where we need to.
Seemed to be working the ordinance the way it was.
Well,
But the
in
problem
order-
is that,
Randy, you voted for this in Public Works.
So,
Well, I mean,
can't change my mind.
you can, but you're arguing against yourself in a vote you took earlier. I mean, the whole reason we're doing this is, like Tom said, trying to be consistent. I mean, if we're gonna have a policy to plow certain sidewalks, we better have a reason for it. And then maybe we need to look and see if there's others that we should be plowing too, because we're not, you know, I appreciate what you've done, Tom, in trying to identify some of these areas and,
Well, it almost sounds like in order to be consistent with our policy, we may need to find some reason to have an exception
exactly.
that is included in the ordinance and then specify or define why there is an exception to these areas.
That'd be great. I mean, the other thing is that,
And-
for Vine Street example, because there's no boulevard, you know, a lot of snow goes up there, and if that would be the exception on Vine Street, that might be one option there. Cooley Road, that does have a boulevard or a grassy area, but it's a little bit on the small side, especially toward Casanova's and
Mhm.
the westerly end of Cooley Road.
Could we send that back to Tom or to Public Works or something to try to define the reason for the exceptions and then bring it back with the exceptions?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say on
Included?
Cooley is, I mean, some parts of Cooley, those are people's lots and it's their front yard. I mean, why we would exempt them from clearing their sidewalk is not really clear to me.
Well, and we might not when we look at it.
Especially from 11th Street down to the one apartments on Colonial Drive. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry.
I'm not too concerned about the front sidewalks. I'm concerned about the back, people's going around to their back sidewalks and.
And in some cases, it might mean someone's going to have it cleared.
And Vine Street, to me, is a main thoroughfare of the city, and if we have to,
Well, the part about Vine Street that I would be concerned about, and it's what Tom talked about, is the plowing of snow onto the sidewalk. Because that, all of a sudden, those residents are needing to shovel the entire streets
right.
snow, so.
Well, Cooley, I'm assuming the apartment owners have contracts.
Yeah, they're paying a service, and we're
But the-
we're
but
saving the
the-
apartment's money is what we're
nuns, I
doing.
don't know if they pay
That's
a
a tough
service or
one.
what. I
Well,
have a
I
little
doubt
problem
that they're
with
out there
too.
shoveling.
Well,
I'm
we
sure
have
they
to,
pay.
we have to be careful. We're not picking and choosing who we're going to plow for and who we're
Well,
not.
I think there have to be
That's their
legitimate,
backyards, that's
legitimate
why.
Yeah,
reasons
it
we can
should be
identify.
based on the use of the sidewalk and
Well, I'm
the-
saying that's their backyard too, though, is the Carmelite. It's not their front
but
yard.
not who owns it, that's my
Right.
point.
But you have to be careful again with the backyard, because as Lori said, there are places where that is people's backyards.
17th is a
that-
thoroughfare.
And the
It's their
fact that-
I'm
backyard.
trying to see, this.
Sidewalk,
I
and
lived on,
people may be
I don't
walking
remember a
there.
A lot
backyard on
of these
17.
thoroughfares are community assets. Cooley is clearly, I can't, countless people that don't live on Cooley run, walk, they go from uptown to downtown. There's a huge loop that people use to walk, including the path that where Stone Pine is gonna plow or not.
What about
I
Third
could
Street
make that
then?
exact same argument about,
So, I
any
mean,
number of
it's a community
sidewalks.
asset, so I think we should be able to designate what we consider part of the active part of Hudson and
Yeah, but is that
Care-
designating what is an asset and what isn't?
Who takes care of Third Street Hill?
Third Street Hill
Side.
from Walnut Street up past the fire hall is city property,
Okay,
and we do maintain that.
well, yeah, the city, yeah.
Well, the only, I guess, the only way to make this consistent and to be sure it's part of the policy of the city is to have it reviewed and then have specific reasons for an exception, which we can agree to. I don't know how else we're gonna get around this.
Wasn't it already written as being consistent, though? You have to plow the front and sidewalks?
I don't know how else you get around it.
It's
Well,
written,
I mean-
it's written in
It can't
front
be
of right now.
universal.
Front and side, wasn't it?
No, in
It just
front
says
of.
front.
Not the sidewalk? Okay, so,
so then
17th, they could quit
17th
plow, or they could
from
quit
Laurel
shoveling.
to Cooley, no one would have to shovel it. So we're going to take that back on.
I lived
Yeah.
on a side where there was no sidewalk, that's why I'm confused. Where's the sidewalk on 17th? I live
Yeah,
on the other side.
let's start. I'll move that we deny the ordinance change to 14-12 municipal code.
You moved to what? I'm sorry. I didn't hear.
Deny.
Second.
So there's a motion to deny and a second to deny. Any further discussion? I'm not opposed to having it denied because it needs definition. I would like to include as part of that motion that it go back to Public Works for definition. And if it wants to come back with definition, we can look at it again. I don't know that I want to kill it altogether.
Well, I'll try killing it, and then I'll make a different motion, but I want to stay to the motion.
Well, the problem is, the ordinance doesn't really address some of the problem. Caruso's house on Cooley. Should they lift the plow when they drive by? Because that's in front of their house. So we shouldn't be, even according to this ordinance, we should not be plowing it.
Okay, we'll send it back to committee.
So we'll deny and send it back to committee
Yeah.
and try to get some definition. Are you comfortable with that, Tom?
Absolutely.
Okay. Are you okay with including the sending back to committee?
Yes.
So there's a motion and a second to deny the language change in the ordinance, but to send it back to committee for further definition. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
So then in the meantime, if we would get snow, we'll just continue as we have.
I would say that's probably what we should be doing.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tom, sorry.
All right. What do we got left here? Consider designating Finance Officer Neil Soltis as chairperson for the Consultant Selection Committee for the Wisconsin Street Project.
Move to approve because his hair's disheveled.
Second.
A motion
I
and a
think.
second. Any discussion on this issue?
So just for a little clarification, this is for the Wisconsin Street project, and we are required, Karen, you can probably explain it better than I can, but we're required to choose a consultant, a design consultant, and it, come on up, Karen, it can't be Foth, correct?
It can't be, Neil?
I mean, Foth can't help us with the selection process.
It's a quality-based selection.
Right.
So you have to go out for SOQs. And both, if we want to design the project or be considered to design the project, we can't help you in the SOQ process. So we're stepping back from that process so we can submit on the job. That's why Neil is taking the lead.
Neil's had some experience with it.
And did I read somewhere that we're not going to be able to move the funds to a different, we have to stick with the Wisconsin project, is that right?
Well, we would have to essentially start over, turn over the funds, and start over, reapply with no
Been
guarantee
advised
that
that
we
would be a
get.
bad decision.
Well,
Right.
what a waste of money, too.
Well, no, we're not gonna, we don't do those things.
Right.
Make bad decisions. All right, so there was a motion and a second to approve Neil as the consultant, or as the chairperson for the consultant selection committee.
Right, and the committee would also include Tom Zulli, Devin Willey, and Mayor Burchell. Along with, Public Works Committee members.
Are we approving all those people as part of
Well,
this?
I mean, we're mainly approving Neil as heading up the committee,
Okay.
but
Okay,
that was a suggestion from Public Works.
okay, so we're approving Neil head up the committee.
Mhm.
All right, there was a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Karen.
Update on projects, the street the street improvement projects for 2012. All work is done for this year. We will look at next year when we have the spring snow melt and see how the grass is doing and the other items on the project. The Lake Malibu Storm Sewer Outfall project has started. They've done the clearing and grubbing. They removed the debris. On Thursday, they did the shotcreting of the rock channel. So we had nice warm days Thursday, Friday, Saturday to help it cure. And the contractor has put insulated blankets over the channel. Did a really nice job with that. To let you know, today they were working on the end wall. And the plan was try to use as much as the wall as they can. And they're having problems with it and it's starting to crumble. So we're going to have to be adding a little more concrete than what we originally expected. So we will have an additional cost for the end wall on the project.
How far till completion on that?
Well, we're looking at doing the end wall, pouring the end wall, and there's a support wall under the channel this week. And then next week we'll be working on the grading. So I see... Yeah, pretty close. We might have problems with the restoration. We're going to try to get down the erosion control blanket and probably do dormant seeding, but restoration of the neighbor to the east, that may be done next year to fix his driveway, because I think we're going to be out of time to do that, and we've already discussed that with him.
Any other questions of Karen? Thanks, Karen.
Yeah.
All right, old business, new business, there is none. Communications and recommendations of the mayor. He's in some warm weather area right now and doesn't have any. Communications and items for future agenda, any alderperson?
I just have a communication. I'd like to congratulate the Hudson High School football team for going very far in the first time in the history of the high school into that 11th round. I don't know what a better term to say it.
That was great.
But I do know that team, since 8th grade, those seniors have not lost a game until just last Saturday. So congratulations to the high school team.
Good communications.
Also, if anyone from District 2 is watching, or any, right now, there is a fire drill going on with the Hudson Fire Department. It is practice, but they are on Highway 35 and they are around the area, so just so you know, the fire is practice.
Mhm. Anyone else? Okay, if not, oh, you've got a couple.
Just a reminder, the budget hearing is next week, 6:50 PM. Any members of the community, we do have a copy here at the front desk for viewing, and then the budget will be acted on at the regular meeting. And all of you received the report on the general election. We did set records for both turnout in numbers and in percentage. We're in the process of entering over 1,000 registrations, and when all that clears and things get moved around, I'm guessing we'll be over 80% because the number will come down a little bit. And 3 of the districts are over 80%. And Nancy and I would like to extend our thanks to all of the election workers and the city staff for all the work they did before, during, and after the election. It was a busy process, but I think generally, other than a few weather issues and line issues, I think it went very smoothly and not made aware of any other issues. So, thank you.
Catherine, anything from you? Nancy, you got anything? Nope.
No, thanks.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.